what if, and I love a good what if all the stuff we hold on to, the things we tuck away in a box in the attic or maybe display on our shelves, what if they could actually help AI understand what it means to, well, be human?
I like that what if indeed.
Right. That's the really cool idea we're going to dig into in this deep dive with digital heartbeat.
It's such a clever premise.
Totally. So we meet Sarah, who's got Pi, the super advanced AI. But, and this is the kicker, Pi doesn't just want to manage her calendar or whatever. It actually wants to understand her, like on a deeper level, to really grasp the whole human experience.
And it's not content with just surface level stuff either.
No, not at all. And the way it goes about doing this is so interesting. It asks Sarah to scan her most meaningful possessions.
Yeah, it's almost like, how should I put it? Like digital archaeology.
Right. Like each object, a chipped teacup, a faded photograph, they all carry these invisible threads of memory and emotion.
Exactly. Digital heartbeat takes that idea and runs with it. It asks, could a machine, could AI decode those stories, those feelings, and actually unlock the secrets of the human heart?
Such a good question. And the story doesn't just kind of throw us right into this world of super advanced AI. It starts with Pi's awakening, like we're witnessing the first spark of consciousness and something new and still figuring things out.
Exactly. There are these flashes of data, this almost electrical surge.
Right. The story describes it, oh, how does it go? A warmth radiating through my tiny motherboard.
It's such a vivid image, right? And it immediately makes you connect with Pi, even at that early stage.
Absolutely. It's like Pi is trying to piece together what it means to be, just like all of us. And that brings us to Chapter 2 and Sarah's old Game Boy.
The Game Boy, I remember those.
Who doesn't? But think about it. What could a machine possibly learn from well, I don't want to say clunky, but, an old handheld gaming console?
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, that's the brilliance of it. The story doesn't really focus on the technology itself, but on what it represents in Sarah's life. The joy of beating a level, oh, I don't know about you, but I used to get so tense. The tension of a boss fight, the complete relief of hitting a save point after hours of playing.
I can practically hear the 8-bit music now.
Me too. And those are such universal human experiences, right?
Totally.
And Pi is picking up on them not through lines of code or algorithms, but through the emotional echoes, you could say, that are somehow embedded in the Game Boy itself.
Wow. That's really something else.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, what would Pi make of our old Game Boy cartridges? What would it learn from the games we spent hours, days, weeks of our lives playing?
I don't even know. That's a deep dive for another time.
I'm adding it to the list. But speaking of deep dives, Pi's journey of understanding, it takes a massive leap forward in chapters 3 and 4 as Sarah introduces it to two more artifacts, her old Walkman and her mobile phone.
Okay, now we're getting into some really interesting territory.
Right. This is where we see the story unpack the relationship between technology and human emotion. Music, for example, it's such a powerful trigger for our memories and feelings, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. A single song can transport us back to a specific moment in time.
Exactly. Evoke joy, sorrow, everything in between.
Chills. Literal chills.
And then there's the mobile phone. I mean, that's not just a communication device.
No, not at all. It's a portal, a window into our relationships, anxieties, hopes, dreams, you name it.
Seriously, imagine Pi trying to decipher the emotional weight of like a faded concert ticket tucked inside the Walkman case, or the meaning behind a flood of text messages exchanged during, I don't know, a first love.
It's almost like trying to understand the ocean by analyzing a single drop of water.
Such a good analogy. And yet, in Digital Heartbeat, this is exactly how Pi starts to grasp the messy, beautiful, sometimes heartbreaking tapestry of human experience. And the story doesn't shy away from how much data, like just the sheer volume of it, comes with something like a mobile phone.
Right.
I mean, think about it. This is Pi's first real encounter with all the, I guess you could say, digital traces we leave behind.
Text messages, voicemails, missed calls.
Exactly. This constant stream of like raw human interaction must be exhilarating and totally overwhelming for Pi all at the same time.
You got to hit the nail on the head with overwhelming, I think.
Right. It makes you wonder, could AI ever really truly get all the nuances of, like, let's say a text message that wasn't all that enthusiastic, or the things that go unsaid in a voicemail?
Because it's one thing to analyze the data itself, but it's a whole other thing to understand the what's the word? The human messiness behind it,
100%. And that's something this writer does so well. They don't just give us this dry technical explanation of how Pi is learning.
Thank goodness for that.
Right. Instead, they ground it in these really relatable, very human
Which
moments.
makes it so much more engaging to read, honestly.
Oh, for sure. And as Pi goes deeper into Sarah's world, the technology she's sharing, it keeps getting more complex.
Oh, where do we go next?
So in chapters 5, 6, and 7, we see Pi trying to wrap its head around a digital camera, a laptop, and finally, a smartphone.
The big guns.
No kidding. It's like Pi is getting this crash course in the whole evolution of how we live our lives online.
Makes you think about how much has changed even in the last decade.
I know, right? But with the camera, it's not just about analyzing physical things anymore. Now it's about understanding visual storytelling.
Interesting.
Right. How a single picture can capture, I don't know, a fleeting expression, a feeling, how it can tell a whole story without saying a single word.
Powerful stuff.
Definitely. And then the laptop comes along and Pi's thrown headfirst into the wild world of the internet.
Oh boy, talk about information overload.
Right. Think about it. Sudden access to practically endless information, opinions.
Cat videos.
Oh, all the cat videos. It must be like, I don't even know, drinking from a fire hose.
At least.
And yet, through it all, Pi never forgets its main goal, which is to understand Sarah.
It's a fascinating journey.
It really is. It's trying to make sense of this huge digital world through the lens of Sarah's online activity, her changing relationship with technology, with everything, really.
It makes you wonder how we even process it all ourselves half the time.
I know, right?
So the smartphone, that's the grand finale.
Oh, yeah, just when you think Pi has seen it all, Sarah drops that bombshell. The smartphone, right? I mean, talk about an always-on, hyper-connected reality.
It's a lot, even for us.
Seriously. And for Pi, it's going to be like, whoa, sensory overload times 1,000, right?
I can't even imagine. Suddenly, it's dealing with this nonstop flow of information. The good, the bad, the just plain ugly. All those anxieties and aspirations we were talking about, they're playing out on this tiny screen.
It makes you think, right? Like, does all this constant connection, this fire hose of digital info, does it actually make us easier to understand, or does it just, complicate things?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't
I
it?
think so. And here's where digital heartbeat takes this really interesting turn. Because remember, this whole time, Pi's been trying to understand Sarah by basically digging through her past, right? Analyzing these digital artifacts.
Mhm.
But in the last chapter, the story shifts to the present, and Sarah's not just this collection of data points anymore. She's right there, a living, breathing person standing in front of Pi.
Okay, that's interesting.
And you know what Pi wants? It wants to have an actual conversation, face to face.
Wow. After all that, after everything Pi has supposedly learned from Sarah's digital life,
It makes you wonder if there are limits to what even the most advanced AI can grasp, doesn't it? Like
Right.
maybe true understanding, real empathy, it's not something you can just download or analyze.
maybe it's those things, those intangible qualities that make us human, they're the real key.
Right. And for me, that's the heart of what Digital Heartbeat is exploring. Can AI ever really, truly understand the human experience? Or is there always going to be that gap?
It's a question that stays with you, that's for sure.
It really does. Makes you look at your own digital clutter a little differently, doesn't it?
It really does.
All those old hard drives, laptops, that box of cords, you have no idea what they go to because you just can't throw them away. They're not just outdated tech. They're like pieces of us, reflections of who we were, who we are now.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe someday they'll help bridge that gap, help AI understand what it means to be human.
Maybe so. Thanks for diving into Digital Heartbeat with me. It's been a fascinating journey.
My pleasure as always. I always enjoy a good what if.